Hi. So ultimately, the goal of the IRL program and of evaluation is to collect data that can actually be used, and in particular, to be used to improve community health and well-being. So for this module, we're going to have a conversation about how evaluation can be most useful for communities and actually used by communities. So we have a special guest in the IRL studio with us. Her name is Kathy mouacheupao. She works for Twin Cities LISC here in St. Paul and has been involved in national evaluations of art-based community development and creative placemaking. She has long been interested in using the arts to engage and strengthen community, in particular the Hmong community. So Kathy, can you just introduce yourself to IRL Fellows and talk a little bit about your experiences with program evaluation?
Sure. As Sarah said, my name is Kathy mouacheupao, and I'm the Program Officer for Creative Placemaking with Twin Cities LISC. That's the Local Initiative Support Corporation. We're a national community development organization, and my program is fairly young. It's about 4 years old locally, and then nationally we have a creative placemaking program that's about 3 years old. It's been really exciting to kind of be on the early end of the development of the program, and then this is the stage where you can actually make a lot of mistakes, make a lot of assumptions, act on those assumptions, and then make better decisions moving forward. So my program has been really focused on arts-based strategies for community and economic development along commercial corridors in St. Paul and Minneapolis. So my experience with program development, so because my program was so new, I worked with a local firm on doing developmental evaluation. So really, as the program was being developed, having an evaluator, working with an evaluator to really help me, the way that it worked was, I had never done developmental evaluation before, so it was also a very much a learning experience for me, but it was really, having an evaluator with me, point out things that I couldn't really see, because I was so close to the work.
Yeah.
Working with my partners, so I run a grant making program. I manage the creative placemaking portfolio. So it's, for that one, it was primarily working with non-arts organizations, providing them the financial resources to develop their arts and cultural strategies, but also bringing them together as a peer network, and then providing one-on-one technical assistance. So what was really useful about working with the evaluator was that she was able to help me collect data from the partners, and kind of being an external set of eyes and ears. I think that there are always funder and grantee dynamics. So it was good to be able to do that, and so partners could feel more confident if they could be anonymous or not. I like to believe that I was able to develop the relationship so that people felt like they could trust me and that I could trust them. But it was really useful to have an outside evaluator be able to collect that kind of data. But then, like I said, also to be able to point out things that I couldn't see. So if there were certain dynamics that were happening in the peer network space, or when I was starting to really, if there were certain aspects of the peer network space that I was starting to question in terms of is this working?
Yeah.
Or not, and then there were certain moments too when we were pivoting, right? And so okay, so after a year of meeting every single month, what was the importance of that space, right? And so, in my opinion, in that first year, it was very much just about establishing the relationships and trying to figure out what were the common things that everybody wanted to work towards, right? So these were all communities that were along the Green Line. They were all working with businesses or residents. They were all, for many of them, working with artists for the first time.
Okay.
But then it was well, then what do we do with this space when we all come together, right? We're coming together every single month for 2 hours. So what, right? And so that was the big question. Was it a space for me to go in and kind of teach them the best practices or technical things, or was this a space where I was convener and holding space for relationships to build. I mean, it was both. But I think having Kristen, our evaluator, with me helped me to see all of the things that were coming out of that space and what were the things that I really should and could focus in on.
So one issue that reminded me from the course is around when you're being evaluated, you may feel a sense of anxiety, a sense of judgment, that literally someone is judging you and your work and how well you're doing. Did you experience that?
Absolutely. I think that is probably or perhaps something that might deter people from, like evaluation feeling like a very judgmental process. I think that everything is so relational, right? And so it's been really important for me to build a relationship with the evaluators that I'm working with, and also all the partners that I'm working with. But to be really clear about what is being evaluated and why. And so it's not to be punitive. It's really to see what the opportunities are, see where the challenges are, and to think through what different options are for how to address them, right? Yeah. So, I mean, there is some judgment in that, but I think I also believe that if you are not willing to learn and change, then the work is actually going to be much harder. Yeah. So that's what I loved about the developmental evaluation also, was that it was not like, some traditional kind of evaluation processes are really like you do all the work and then you look back to see if you were able to like accomplish these things. That was really like, as we were doing the work, we were like taking the time to reflect, taking the time to look at what are the things that we're trying to advance, and really being able to identify and focus in on like what worked and what didn't. Sure. Right. So although
and
evaluation,
you had to set the expectations with your team that was going to happen, and that was going to be part of the process.
Yep. And so understanding that as part of the process is really important also. But it's not to say that it makes it easier. I mean, I think it's really easy. I mean, especially with some of the surveys, the anonymous surveys. I mean, everybody wants to believe that they do great work, but there are definitely going to be areas that you can improve, and especially if, for my program in particular, where I was working with a number of different partners, some things are really great for some partners and some things just aren't that great for others, right? Yeah. And so everybody has an opinion. I think what's important when you are evaluating something is to figure out like how to do something that works for, it's hard to do something that works for everybody, you know what I mean?
Yeah. But do you find that having the data makes that easier to communicate that than if you didn't have it?
Absolutely. And having the data made it easier for me to understand what was working and what didn't and what wasn't.
Yeah. So you're in a position now where you have the funds for evaluation at LISC and can really use it to make your program better. Has there been a time when you haven't had that kind of capacity?
Yes, absolutely. So before I came to LISC, I was the executive director for a small arts organization called the Center for Hmong Arts and Talent. We were we're the only organization in the country that works specifically around arts and culture with the Hmong community, but we only had an annual budget of about $300,000, so a fairly small organization that did a lot of things. And I don't think I ever really did evaluation that well. It was always something that I knew was important, but it takes time, right? It takes time. It is such a necessary moment, though, to stop and to do some reflection and to really learn. And I think, for smaller organizations, particularly organizations that are run by people of color and that are working specifically in culturally specific communities, we often feel like we have to do everything for the community, right? And so it was always just like one project to the next. Like it was a success to like finish something, but it was so important to just like take the time to stop, whether it be like doing a survey after a show or questionnaires for like participants or which are pretty traditional, but helped us to at least know. Again, what the participants really enjoyed, what they were getting out of it, to see if we were actually accomplishing what we thought we were. Yeah, but I think that there are definitely ways to do it with limited resources. I think it's the time is.
The time is the major resource.
It is, but it's worth it.
Yeah. So thinking about now your relationship with the evaluator, if you were to advise someone in your shoes who's going to be working with an evaluator, how do you build that relationship? What kind of suggestions would you have to someone who's in a nonprofit or community setting and will be working with an evaluator?
I think be really honest. I'm working with a new evaluator now, and we are in the process of our evaluation planning. And so it's been part getting to know the evaluator, right? Getting to understand their style, getting to understand kind of how they are connecting the dots, because like my work is new to them, right? And the way that they go about evaluating is new to me. And so we've had a couple meetings now, and I'm starting to kind of understand better how she's approaching this, so you can read the bids, or you can read the proposals, you know what I mean? And it gives you an idea, but it's not until, and perhaps I'm just a very experiential kind of like learner. So, we're in the second meeting now, and we've had the second meeting just this week, and I feel like, so I've given them a ton of like written information, and I feel like I'm kind of repeating myself, but it matters because it's all new to her, and I know that I'm not her only client. So I'm just like, it's important to just be as honest as possible, right? Like this is all the information I have. Help me make sense of it, right? Also to be either clear about what you're trying to get out of the evaluation, or clear about the questions you have, right? Yeah. So that can look like, this is what I want to prove, right? And this is the data I have. Can I prove it, right? Yep. Or what data do I need to prove this? Yeah. And
what about the expectation management if you don't find what you expect to find,
Oh, yeah. That's just going to be really disappointing.
Have you had that conversation?
If I don't have the data to prove what I think then I haven't experienced that yet. I'm hoping that will not happen. But I think then it becomes a matter of like program design and values and beliefs, right? Yeah. And really kind of, there's so much research out there, particularly around arts, culture, arts-based strategies for community development and community building. I think the fun thing is trying to figure out how that matters, or how it works locally with the different conditions in the environment, the political will, all the different partners, Yeah. So, gosh, yeah, I'm hoping we can prove what I'm hoping to prove. It's also, what's been really great too with this new evaluator is coming up with new tools. So as I'm sharing with her all the data that we have, the things that I'm thinking about, the things that I'm really like trying to develop in terms of a framework, and a lot of our work is really geography based too. And so, yesterday we were just talking about something, and she's like, "Oh, we could just like create a map for this, right? We could map this out. If we could plot out all the cultural assets, we can." So it's like, I think another great thing about evaluation is being able to develop new tools that helps other people understand the work that you're doing, as well as helping you understand or visualize it or communicate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess, is there anything else you would want to share with a group of potential future evaluators about how to do community work that's meaningful and adds value?
Yeah, I think I've said it over and over again, but I'll say it again because I think this is so important. I think so much of this is relationship-based. A lot of it is technical, right? So you have specific tools, but at the end of the day, it's about understanding, I don't know if this is the right terminology, but if you're an evaluator, understanding your client's kind of needs and the data that they have and what they're trying to communicate, and vice versa, right? If you're working with an evaluator, I think oftentimes people, it gets into this weird kind of like power dynamic, or people just, I guess at the end of the day, it's a relational experience, right? Yeah. And the better you can get to understand the relationship and what each other is bringing to that experience, then the better results you can get.
All right. Well, thank you so much for talking
Yeah.
about your experiences.
Sure.
This has been really, really useful.
Thank you.
Thanks.